Hello, welcome to Living Spark, a program of the Spark of Humanity Network. My name is Martha Holden. I'm a member of the Spark of Humanity Network. Living Spark, of which this is the last show that we're aware of, has been hosted this year by Danielle O'Hallisey, who is relatively new to practicing the concept that there is a spark of humanity in each one of us. Each one of us, you too, and everybody you think of and everybody you know. The concept, the insight came in the late 1970s and sort of gestated, and in late 2016, 2017, it began to blossom, bear fruit, and came up with what ended up being a little book, which I will quickly read to you because this is what Danielle in Living Spark was working to incorporate, to manifest in her own life. As if you've ever learned something new, it's helpful to have someone else who's learning at sort of the same pace as you are, rather than being stuck with a bunch of people who've been doing it for decades. So I and some others have been doing this for decades, so Danielle very kindly was willing to be a neophyte in the spark, whether it's a practice or an attitude or I don't know what it is, but anyway, here it is. So the little book is, in everyone, in each one of us, there's a spark of humanity. Sometimes we're afraid that something might damage our spark. We're afraid it might be put out. It can't be, even though at times we're not feeling it. Sometimes our sparks are defended. Sometimes they're distorted. Sometimes they're baffled, sometimes all three. Sometimes so much that we're not aware that we have one. Regardless, and everyone we meet and everyone we think of, there is a spark of humanity. Regardless how defended or distorted or baffled. All sparks are made of the same stuff. Sparks have a natural affinity for each other. When you, through your spark, affirm and connect with the spark in another, regardless of how defended or distorted or baffled they are, their spark is strengthened. That changes things. Excuse me. It seems that the strengthened spark acts to, erode the defenses. Actually, the book doesn't have it this way, but we've learned it is this way. Erode the defenses, clarify the bafflement, release the distortions from the inside. Ooh, it is very good. How might you claim your spark? Well, one of the things we've learned is that the only way we can claim our spark is by connecting with and affirming the spark in another. So, and we start in our meditations, which we do by the phases of the moon. You can find out about them on our Spark of Humanity Network website. That in order to claim our spark, we need to connect with and affirm the spark in another. And when we become fluent in that with the easy people, then we can move on to the more difficult people, the more challenging people. And through this, we become agents of transformation because we are strengthening through our spark, strengthening the spark in others. What is not explicit in this book and did not become explicit till much later on in the process is that in this process our spark also is strengthened, which means our defenses are eroded, our bafflement is clarified. In other words, you realize, oh, I can change my mind about that. That idea that I've had all my life is not necessarily true. I can think about seeing it a different way. My perceptions can be shifted. And when that happens, our distortions may be released. So we're less of a hazard to the world and everybody around us. Excuse me for saying that, I'm feeling a little cynical today. Anyway, so that started moving. And then some people said, well, how about my dog? How about my parrot? How about that time I was out for a hike and I went by this rattlesnake sunning on the rock. And as I went by, the rattlesnake yawned. And I felt this bond of connection with it. Some people have that with their begonias or their avocado trees or, a variety of things. Excuse me, it's really bad that my voice is doing this. So they said, and I don't particularly think much of humanity. I don't like it, and I think it's a crock, and I really think the sooner we all become extinct, the better the world will be. So some of us, went, okay, how do we name that which is alive and functional within each one of us? And what's the name? So we just thought, because some of us, not all of us, have some roots in the Christian tradition, that the concept of Christ, not Jesus necessarily, but that which saves, that which moves us toward healing and resolution, that which is anointed, technically, that's what Christ is the Greek for the Hebrew Messiah, which is the one who is anointed. There is that within each one of us. In each one of us, there's that capacity, that potential, that's yearning. So we put out another little book which says, in everyone, in each one of us, there's a spark of humanity, of Christ. Christ, small caps Christ, to distinguish from capital C Christ, which is, that Jesus person who some of us are very fond of us, and others would just as soon not ever have to have mentioned again. So small caps Christ, neutralize it. So that, so we did that, same language, just adding spark of humanity of Christ. And meanwhile, because this is a living process, it's not clear from the language that the spark of humanity within us is alive. But certainly the Christ within us is alive and trying to stretch and find its place and find its expression. So that sort of sideways, not really a detour, we realize that there is a solution to the horrors in the world, to the difficulties, the pain, the tragedy, use your own words, and that it may be seen as a living mosaic, where each one of us is a little tiny bit, an essential, unique bit of this living mosaic. And that the more we are into where we need to be in the mosaic, or if that's too concrete for you, the symphony, the tapestry, the song, the whatever, but we're part of something larger, harmonious, beautiful, that together offers a solution. So that brought us lickety-split to ask Orca Media, blessed may they be, if they would be willing to have the show. So that was in 2024. We offered that, and it's on YouTube. And so that was Living Mosaics, and Danielle was watching that and paying attention to it and said, how about Living Spark, where we become more in integrity with who we are, who we're needed to be, our place where we're needed to be. So she did that, and there it is. And she's being faithful to her living spark, and therefore having her defenses eroded and her bafflement clarified. She's in the process of moving across the country. So hence I'm here. And to say this is what's happened to Living Spark, it shall live on YouTube. But this is the last Living Spark session. Danielle may be back on with something else at some point, but we don't know. She's moving and being true to her process, and that's a gift. However, in January of 2026, in case you're watching this some other time, this idea of there's a spark of humanity of Christ in each one of us has been sort of like, So, new booklet. There will be, in January, it's called Living Christ. Small caps, not capital C, small Christ. Let me read you the book, which we're working on a video of this, which will be shown at the beginning of each one of the shows in 2026. Okay. The Christ sings life, streams the divine, evolves being, flows toward fulfillment. So there's something within us that's sort of wanting to flow toward fulfillment. Now, we may be blocking it up or trying to divert it, of course, but that's the impulse. Maybe more than Jesus, as we understand Jesus. We realize in doing this work that there are people who we lovingly called Christophobes, who mention that word and get me out of here, I can't hear it, I can't stand it, I'm triggered, I can't do it. Then, of course, there are Christophiles who are like, I love Jesus, Jesus is my Lord and Savior, please don't ever say anything bad about him. And we're right in the middle. So here we go. Okay, so that's the Christ, sings life, streams the divine, evolves being. It's the force of evolution. It's the divine, it's evolution, flows toward fulfillment, maybe more than Jesus. That's another theological thing. We may do that some other time. There is Christ in everyone. We can't get rid of it. You'll love it when we get this on the video because the pictures are totally cute. We can deny it. We can do our best to mangle it. We can try to distort it. We cannot get rid of it. We're stuck with it. We can choose to live in harmony with it and deeper. We can choose to join it. So it's like a river, not a liver. It's like a river that is flowing through, and we can just choose to get in the river and be in harmony with it. We can just choose to let ourselves sort of become one with the river. We can choose to join it. It is the nature of the Christ to attract, heal, transform, blossom. That is within each one of us. Each one of us, yes, even them, even her, even him. When we let the Christ be true to its nature, it grows. When the Christ grows, we don't know what will happen. Whatever happens will be true. 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 Probably lively, scary. Maybe fun, scary. Interesting for sure, scary. Deeply joyous. Life. Worth getting out of bed for. There's a picture of somebody lying in bed. I don't wanna, I don't wanna, I don't wanna. And the spark of humanity going over them. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, it's worth getting out of bed for. Christ? Interested? And then in the booklet, we have a QR code. On videos, QR codes don't work. So we're going to do something with some vocals and say, interested? Come along with us. As we explore what it's like living Christ. Allowing the Christ to be living, allowing the Christ within us to be living, allowing the Christ that permeates all being to be living. To allow ourselves to join that reality. Because we have our spark of humanity, we know that we are essentially safe, that nothing can damage our spark, nothing can corrupt it, nothing can pollute it. We are essentially safe. Therefore, we can take the risk of living Christ, which, it's moving Danielle across the country, having her completely dismantle her life one place and hoping to put it together in another. We don't know we don't know, but it's, as it says in the book, it's true. Whatever happens will be true. And we can trust that. So that's what's happening in January. Meanwhile, here we are. And so I will be silent. Won't that be a break? And see, you can sort of beam questions or comments at me, or you can zoom in if you're polite, because Coleman's watching you. Okay, I'll be quiet for a couple minutes, see what comes up. This is invitational. We're hoping to present it attractively, of course, gently, enough so that you and others, folks who watch this, folks who hear about it, are willing to dip their toes into the river and then maybe go a little further. The thing that I've learned and that I know is that we're in this together. There's a community here. We may use very different language. We may use different images. We may speak different languages, literally, with different concepts. But there's this, we're each trying to, we're each being invited into the river, towards the river, and to take off our shoes and socks and whatever is defending us from what's underfoot, and be willing to engage with the reality, the truth that flows underneath all existence. In our meditations on the Sunday afternoon meditations, in conjunction with the Sunday closest to the new moon and the full moon, we talk about the aquifer of living truth that underflows all being, and the living wisdom that steams up, that mists up from the aquifer of living truth. As we get closer to the aquifer of living truth, we can feel the wisdom steaming up, the living wisdom. It's not static. Nobody owns it. Cannot put it in a box. Can't even put it in a book. But, the book hopefully will help encourage people to come toward the river and take off the shoes and socks and put a toe in, see how that feels, and begin to notice the other people up and down the riverbank, wading in up to their ankles. Whoa, maybe we're holding hands with some people and going in together. Just checking how safe it is, whether it feels right for us, how do we run the journey? How do we travel the journey? How do we make the journey in a way that is true for us? That we're not allowing anybody else to buffalo us, charm us, berate us, scare us, traumatize us. How do we do that? We just easily, gently, trusting, just, we trust a little bit, and then so we trust a little bit more. We trust a little bit more. It's an ongoing process, but it's, on some level, I like to think everybody, you and all the people and all your worst nightmares, all are on that journey. And the deeper we allow ourselves to be drawn into the river, the one that, where does the river? It streams towards something. Oh, it streams the divine, flows toward fulfillment. The more we exude a welcoming, invitational energy to those still sort of in the pucker brush on the riverbanks, saying, hey, it's really nice in here. I think you'll like it. Maybe a little scary. However, it's deeply joyous. There's a wonderful calligraphy that some friends of mine have. It's put in Christian terminology. Forgive me, those of you who are Christophobic. But author of the, bearer of the world's pain, author of the world's joy. At the heart of all our distress, let unconquerable gladness dwell. So whatever you're praying to or thinking about, at the heart of all our distress, let unconquerable gladness dwell. How's that for a concept? Unconquerable gladness. It may be scary, it may be uncomfortable. It may feel painful as we let go of our old ideas, as we become willing to become transformed. There may be grief. There'll probably be fear. There may be pain. If we're holding on to stuff that the river's suggesting we let go of, there can be some pain in letting go of that. But at the heart of all that process, at the heart of all our distress, internal and external, global, national, civic, however, whatever distress, let unconquerable gladness dwell. We always have a choice. We can choose life. We can choose to trust life. We can choose to trust the process that brought this precious biosphere and us into being, that mighty river that flows through all existence. So, come along with us.